Hello everyone, my name is Ivo and welcome to Cooking with the Koyas. So glad you could join me because today folks we are going to make an amazing pizza. Now before we begin, I just want to mention I do have other pizza videos out there. For those of you who are gluten-free or know someone who's gluten-free, I have a great gluten-free pizza recipe. If you need a pizza same day, I've got a fantastic recipe for a 2-hour dough and you're into the pizza. And I also have an overnight Naples style pizza recipe. So there's 3 different videos. I will put the link in the description for you. If you haven't seen them yet, be sure to check them out. But today, folks, we're gonna make an amazing Italian pizza with a rustic flair to it by adding a different flour. And I'm gonna show you. Let's get started right now. So our first step, folks, very, very easy and quick. So here I have 140 grams, which is 4.9 ounces of 00 flour. A higher protein one. I'm using this one today, but you could use any 00 flour you want. This particular one is 12.5% protein, and I like my doughs to be 12.5 to 13.5% in that range. Okay, so I've got my 140 grams of 00 flour. Now, folks, here comes the rustic element. I have here 50 grams of Semola flour. Now, Semola, this is the one I'm using, this Semola one here. But Semola is basically semolina that's a finer grind. That's all it is. So if you can't find Semola, you can use semolina. And again, it's 50 grams or 1.76 ounces. Okay, so we have our 2 flours in there now. We are going to add to that 1 teaspoon of diastatic malt powder. Now, this is optional, but I always give you the best way to make things. And the diastatic malt is one of the keys because it's a superfood for the yeast. And you know what? 1 teaspoon, it's only 3.5 grams. You can buy a big bag of it for a few dollars. It'll last you a couple years. So trust me, it's worth buying. To that, we are going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of instant yeast. You could also use active dry yeast, okay? And a 1/4 teaspoon, it's about 1 gram. Okay, so that's our dry ingredient. Just going to mix them all together. Okay. Now, quite simply, we're going to add our water. So what I have here, folks, is 190 grams of warm water, which is about 80 to 90 degrees. And 190 grams is about 6.7 ounces. All right, so we add that to the flour, and now, quite simply, we mix. Just mix it all together, and it's going to be a very watery, somewhat watery dough, real sticky and watery. But that's okay because we're not really touching it at this point. We're just making what's called a Poolish. Okay, so I like to have a nice firm spatula, but you could use a wooden spoon as well. And just mix it all together. Make sure all the ingredients are incorporated. There we go. All right, so step 1, folks, is done. All we have to do now is cover this, but I personally like to put it in a container with a cover on it. So I'm just going to put it in there. But again, if you don't have a container that seals properly, just with a piece of cellophane, put it over your bowl and just seal it nice and tight. All right, so there we go. Our dough is now, this is our Poolish, is now made. Get all that beautiful Poolish in there. All right, and now it's just let's get our cover. And I need to go get my cover. Be right back. Okay, now that I have my lid, we put the lid on, nice and tightly secured, and that's it, folks. There's our Poolish. Now, this has to sit for 12 hours. So we're going to come back in 12 hours, and I'll show you how amazing this is going to look. And now, in addition to that, a couple of things. I like to start this pizza dough the night before, around 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. That way, when you follow the schedule, you'll have this pizza ready for dinner the next day. So I kind of try to time it that way. So it's going to sit for 12 hours. And here's the thing, folks, when you make a pizza dough with a pre-ferment like a Poolish, it's easier to digest. It has much more flavor and it's much easier to digest than a same day pizza dough. Like I said, sometimes you're stuck, you need a dough in 2 hours, no problem. But if you can plan for it, overnight's the best. See you in 12 hours. It's been about 12 hours. Let's check on our Poolish and see how it's doing. Look at there, folks. Isn't that nice? It has grown so nicely. Step one is done, folks. Make the Poolish. How easy was that? Let's go on to step two, make the dough. Okay, let's take a closer look at our beautiful Poolish. Oh, looky there, folks. It's got little air pockets in there. You see that? That is a beautiful Poolish right there. And it's, of course, you could see it's very runny, right? Because it's 100% hydration. Okay, so to our Poolish, what I have here, folks, is, again, 140 grams of 00 flour, the same 00 flour we used yesterday. 140 grams is about 4.9 ounces. And then I have the same semola that we used yesterday, and you can see it's a little yellow in color. And again, it's 50 grams, just like yesterday, of semola, which is 1.76 ounces. Again, like yesterday, I have here about a teaspoon of diastatic malt powder, which is about 3.5 grams. And I mentioned to you that the diastatic malt, you can get a big bag. Here's a huge bag. That's what I've got. 1 kilo. Okay. I give away to friends because this will last me a lifetime at a teaspoon at a time. A ton of diastatic malt. Okay. So now that we have our flour and our malt, we have 2 flours, so we're going to mix together. Now, in case I didn't mention, semola flour, I mentioned it's yellow, but it's typically higher in protein. It's about 14% protein, whereas our 00, this one was 12.5%. So I like using the semola because it brings up the level of our protein. And as I mentioned, I like between 12.5 and 13.5% protein for pizza. I've made them higher protein, but I like that level of protein because it's a good mix between texture, crispness, and chew. So 14% protein, 12.5% protein, mix them together, we're good to go. So now I have a little bit of water here. I have 55 grams of water, which is 1.94 ounces. And I'm going to add 1.5 teaspoons of salt, which is about 8 grams. If you're counting in ounces, it's 0.28 ounces. Easier, folks. Grams are so much easier to work with. So I'm just using table salt, and I've just added a table salt to warm water. Okay, so 55 grams of warm water. Warm meaning 80 to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. All right. So now we're just gonna mix our dough. So I'm gonna add the flour to the Poolish, add the water, and now quite simply we mix with a spatula. Just start to mix, and we're gonna work that dough and get all that flour incorporated in with the Poolish. And yes, of course, once you've got it mixed, you can see there's still some flour there. We're going to have to get in there with our hands. And that's all right, because that's part of it too, right? So we're going to get in here with our hands and just kind of pick up that flour, squeeze the dough, pick up the flour, get it from the corners, and just pick up all that flour. In fact, you know what? Let's make it easier. Let's just do that. Okay, get all that flour out. And let's bring it all together. There we go. We just kind of pick up that flour. Okay. Then it's going to be a really rough dough. So you just want to work it until it becomes soft and smooth. So about 1 minute to 2. Just kind of knead it with the palm of your hand and just pushing it all together. And it's going to be sticky, somewhat sticky, and that's okay. it's got to be a little bit sticky. So I'm going to do this for about a minute, and you can see it's already starting to smooth out a bit, but it's going to be a nice smooth dough when we're done. As you're working it, you could also use the pincer method, which is squeezing the dough together. Okay, so you could squeeze it. If you've got any little lumps in there to get them out, squeeze it, knead it, like I say, a minute to two. Okay, and there we have a nice smooth dough on the go right there, folks. Yes, sticky, and that's okay. So we're going to put our dough back into our container, unstick it. Okay, back into our container it goes, and we're going to cover it up, and we're going to let it rest for 20 to 30 minutes. It's now been about 20 minutes. Let's check on our dough. It's just been resting very, very nicely. Okay, so now at this point, what we want to do is called a fourfold. We want to, you could also dampen your hand a little bit if you want. And basically, you're going to grab one end of the dough and fold it over. Okay, so grab another end of the dough, lift and fold. Here, let me take the dough out and I'll show you a little bit better. Let's remove the dough. All right. So basically, it's lift and fold. Lift and fold it over. Turn the dough, lift, fold. Lift, fold. Lift, fold. So you want to do a series of, personally, I like to do about 10. Sometimes I'll do up to 20, depends on how the dough feels. And as you're doing this, the dough is tightening up, as you can see there. See how it's getting nice and tight? Right? So it's firming up as we're working that gluten network. All right, so we've done a series of 4 folds. We're going to let it rest for another 20 to 30 minutes. It's been about 20 more minutes, and we'll check up on our dough. As you can see, again, it's resting nicely. Again, if you want, you can just damp your hand just a little bit. Just dampen it with some water. Here, let's take it out of the container again, just so I could show you those folds again, because we have to do another series of folds. But you could see already how beautiful that dough is. So again, to do the folds, just lift and fold over. Move it over, lift and fold over. Work your way around the dough. Just lift and fold. And again, it's tightening up as you do that. Okay, so you want to do, you can do up about 10 folds. You want to do at least 4, at least go around once, but I like to do just a little bit more. Okay, that's enough. There we go. Look at this beautiful dough already, folks. Hey? Isn't that nice? And see how it's sticky, but it doesn't necessarily stick to you at this point. All right, so again, we're going to put it in here, and in case I haven't mentioned it, so far, everything we've done, including step number 1, has all been at room temperature. So now that we've done our second set of folds, we're going to let this double in size, which means it has to sit for 5 to 6 hours. So we're going to let it rest. I'm going to go about my day. We'll see you in 5 to 6 hours. So here we are, some 5.5 hours later, and let's take a look at our dough. Oh yeah, folks, look at that. It has risen very, very nicely. And that is it for step number 2, folks. Beautiful pizza dough right there. Step number 2 is done. That was quick and easy. And guess what? Let's move to step number 3. Also quick and easy. So we're going to remove this beautiful dough from our container. Okay, just slowly work it out. Spatula comes in handy, that's for sure. Yeah, this dough rolls very, very nicely. Look at this beautiful pizza dough, folks. A little bit more in there. Okay, there we have it. So now I have a couple of containers here. I'm going to just add a smidgen of olive oil, just so our dough doesn't stick. So a little bit of olive oil. Let's get one of our containers and turn our scale on. So we have this beautiful dough, And what we're going to do now, folks, is basically cut it in half. They're going to be around 310, 315 grams each. So basically, we want to just cut it in half. This one looks a little bigger. So let's get a weight on that one. Yeah, that's 261 grams. So let's take a chunk off of that and see what we have now. 330, that's still a bit big. Let's see what this one is. Yeah, that's only 285. We got to bring it up to about 310, 306. Yeah, there's 310 grams right there. And this one is, okay, 306 grams. We're close enough. Okay, so what we do now, folks, we're going to do what's called a shaping our dough. And to do that, we're going to do the four-fold again. Fold one end, fold one end, fold one end, fold one end. Okay, and then we can turn it upside down. And then quite simply, just grab the dough from behind and pull it towards you. Kind of cup your hands together, give it a turn, pull it towards you. Give it a turn, pull it towards you. And you do this on a dry surface. And what happens is the dough is rolling and tightening up into a ball. Okay, a nice dry surface so it grips. There we go, nice and tight. There's one nice pizza dough ball right there. So that goes in the container with the lid on. And now let's do the other one that we've added some dough, and that's fine. Again, just do your four-fold. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we'll make it 5. And then give it a turn and then pull it towards you. Same process. And shape that dough. I like to give it a little turn, turn it, pull it, turn it, pull it. There we go. Our second pizza dough is now done. Now, here's the thing. We have two options now. If we're going to make pizza today, we're going to let these sit for 2 hours and then make pizza. If you didn't want to make pizza today, these can go right in the refrigerator and they'll keep there for up to 2 days, 3 days, and then you can make your pizza at will, of course. The other option is you could just freeze them for another time. But today, folks, we're making pizza. So we're going to let them sit for 2 hours, and at an hour and a half, I'm going to go preheat the oven at 1 hour and a half so that the 2 hour mark will be ready to bake. And the oven will be preheated at 500 degrees. Okay, so we'll come back at you in 2 hours. So folks, it's time to have some more fun. My oven has been preheating at 500 degrees with my pizza stone in there. If you don't have a stone, you could use a pizza steel. And if you don't have either, you can make this pizza in a sheet pan. It comes great as well. But I highly recommend a pizza stone. Okay, so the oven is preheated. Let's take a look and see how our beautiful dough is doing. Oh, that is so nice. I just love the smell of fresh dough, folks. Isn't that a nice pizza dough ball right there? Beautiful. Okay, so let's get this pizza dough shaped. As you can see, I have my topping station all set up there. We've got our beautiful dough, and we're gonna put it on. I have some durum wheat semolina, which is, or you could use the semola that we used in the dough itself. But I highly recommend using a semolina or a semola for this part as opposed to flour. There we go, we're gonna put our dough right on there. Flour, folks, on the bottom of your dough, it'll burn, it changes the flavor of the pizza. For me, the semola or the semolina is preferred on the bottom of the dough. Look at this beautiful dough, my goodness. And I wanna make sure the bottom of that dough gets covered in that semolina because that's going to help it slide off our pizza peel. So once I've got it shaped into a bit of a round, then what I like to do, quite simply, is let the dough, just let it fall on its own weight and work my way around the pizza dough. Just let it fall on its own weight, and it's naturally going to get bigger and bigger. And you could make this is going to make a good, 12-inch pizza. It can go up to 14, depends on how thin you prefer your pizza dough. Okay, so just kind of working it this way. And you could even tell if it starts to get thin in a certain area, you can kind of skip over that area and just kind of keep going. But you could see already it's gotten a little bit bigger. And I avoid pushing it out because I don't want to push out those air bubbles. But I put it back on the semolina because I want that semolina to be completely covered on the bottom of this pizza dough. So again, it's a very simple technique. You just let the weight of the pizza dough do its thing as you just work your way around the pizza. Maybe you could see a little better this way. Right, I'm just working my way around, letting the weight of that pizza dough thin itself out very, very nicely. And because we're using the flours we use, we got some nice protein, so we have a stronger gluten content, which helps this part. So you have less risk of breakage when you do that, when you're using a stronger flour. So look at that there. See, that right there already is good enough. It's not quite 12 inches, so it'll be a little bit thicker. So I'm just going to get that on that semolina, and I'm going to stretch this out a little bit more because I want it a little bit thinner and a little bit bigger. Okay, working it around. This, folks, it's a very easy technique. Okay, give it a try. It's not hard at all. Okay, and now it's gotten a bit longer, a bit wider. There we go. So, I got my pizza peel here. I'm gonna put a little bit of semolina on there, not much, just a little bit. And one more go around. Make that just a touch bigger, touch thinner. Oh yeah, that's coming really, really nice. Okay, I think I've got the size that I'm looking for and the thickness. There we go. Isn't that nice? Okay, now let's make sure. Yeah, that's what I want to see right there. So I've got this beautiful, folks, pizza sauce right here that I made in an episode last week. You could see how I made this pizza sauce, but this is the first ingredient that we put on, our first topping. And you know what, folks? It's probably one of the most important. You want a really, really good pizza sauce. And this one, of course, is my own homemade. And I'll put a link in the description for you if you want to see how I made this, because it's easy and it's so tasty. Okay, I don't want to overpower it. That's quite nice right there. So for toppings, again, you could use whatever toppings you like. I'm going to add some mozzarella, shredded mozzarella. Get that on there. And I'm not going to overpower it with tons of cheese and tons of toppings. I want the toppings to enhance the pizza, not take over the pizza. Okay, so I know it doesn't look like a lot of cheese, but that's enough. That's enough. Okay, now I have this beautiful chopped up basil. And I'm going to put the basil on now. I could have actually put it under the cheese so that it avoids burning, but I got a little carried away here. And I like to chop it up and spread it around, that way everybody gets some of the basil. I'm going to add some mushrooms. These are oyster mushrooms that I bought, folks, in a jar. They're packed in oil. They're very flavorful and they're fantastic on a pizza. Okay, so again, I'm not going to overpower it. But there's my mushroom. I'm going to add a little bit of hot pepper. So this also, these pepper rings came from a jar. And what I like to do is take them out and squeeze them and dry them just on a paper towel so they're not, soaking in that vinaigrette. I don't want that on my pizza. I want them to be drier.
There we go. A nice little hint of hot pepper. Okay, and now finally I'm going to top off with some pepperoni. So these are just small little pepperonis, but we're going to, let's make sure this is still, come on, come on. There we go. Yeah, so you don't want to wait too long here because you don't want the pizza to stick to your peel. So be relatively quick when you're putting your toppings on. And this is what I'm using today. Use your favorite toppings, whatever you like, folks. That's the beauty of making pizzas. You could use the toppings that you prefer. And away we go. There we go. Isn't that nice? Okay, I think that we're good to go, folks. Let's put it in the oven. Okay, so before we put it in, just let's make sure. Oh yeah, see there, folks? Beautiful, nothing sticks. Slide that right on our peel, or slide it right on our stone. Now, every oven is different. In my oven, it usually takes between 9 and 10 minutes. So we'll check it around the 9-minute mark and see how we're doing. Okay, so it's been 9 minutes. Let's take a peek. Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about right there. That's the color I want. Oh, folks. We got some nice golden color on our pizza. Doesn't that look nice? And you know what? We're gonna make it look even nicer. And the aromas, folks, the aromas are so nice. How's it look on the bottom? Beautiful. Golden brown, folks, golden brown. I love it. Okay, this is now where we're gonna enhance it. I like to take some extra virgin olive oil and rub it all around, just brush it on the crust. It adds flavor and color and makes our pizza look that much better there. Doesn't that look even nicer now? Look at there. Then you can take a little bit and just drizzle a little bit of olive oil, extra virgin olive oil on the top, and there you have it, folks. Looky there. Oh my, am I looking forward to the taste test. But before I do that, this deserves a quick photo. Okay, that made for a great photo. Time to cut into this pizza. And if you have a pizza cutter, the bigger the wheel, the better the cut and the easier the cut. So, oh boy, I can hear that level of crispness right now. My goodness, folks. Okay, the taste test. I am looking forward to digging in. But just look at that. Look at that crust. Look at that dough. Beautiful. That's what I like, that color. That's the color I like. And the airiness on the crust and the dough, that, folks, is prime. Taste test. Of course, folks, always my favorite part. Boy, do I love pizza. Okay. Oh my goodness, folks. I mentioned earlier, it's got the perfect level of crispness and the texture and that nice little softness with the 00 flour. What a combination. We cook this in the regular oven. If you have a pizza oven, it comes out fantastic in a pizza oven too. And of course, cooks a lot quicker. Try the crust. Perfect. Folks, you know what makes me happy? I love sharing my recipes with you. Makes me happy if you actually make the recipe and enjoy it. In fact, if you make your pizzas now, give this recipe a try, or if you want to get into starting to make your own pizzas, start with this one. Drop me a line. Let me know how you enjoyed it. I'm definitely enjoying it. And I want to thank you for spending time with me in the kitchen on today's episode of Cooking with the Koyas. And as always, folks, until next time, buon appetito.
just the right amount of toppings, and that sauce. That's the ticket. So good. I just had to do this. Love it.